I still remember the day they sold my car. A used Toyota Corolla I'd bought after 3 years of saving tips from my barista job in Spokane. I stood on the curb of our modest duplex as the new owner drove off with my independence, while my stepmother clapped like she'd just won a humanitarian award. "Your brother needs this more than you need a vehicle," she said, peeling off the bills. "Caleb's MBA is an investment in this family's future." Caleb, her biological son, my 25-year-old stepbrother, didn't even glance up from his phone. "Appreciate it, man," he mumbled. "I'll totally hook you up when I'm a CEO." I was 27 then, just graduated from Washington State University with a degree in data engineering. They didn't come to the ceremony, didn't even text. Caleb, meanwhile, had just been accepted into Kellogg's MBA program. His resume was average at best, but to my parents, an MBA was the holy grail. Tech work, in contrast, was something they barely understood. "You can take the commuter line to your little coding job," my dad muttered, slipping the envelope of cash into a folder labeled Caleb's Future. "It's not like you're seeing clients or anything." My little coding job was actually a data infrastructure role at Ardent Systems, a rising star in Seattle's cloud analytics space. They never asked about it, never cared. "The train doesn't go near the campus," I said softly. "Then walk," Caleb grinned. "God knows you could use the cardio. You live on energy drinks." That night, I sat in my half-finished attic bedroom, converted storage space, staring at my account balance. The car money was supposed to be my ticket to renting a studio closer to work. Instead, I was stuck navigating 3 bus transfers and an hour-long walk just to make it to the office. My phone lit up. A message from Jada Monroe, my team lead at Ardent. "Your optimization code? Game changer. Want to grab coffee? Got a crazy idea to run by you?" That coffee meeting changed my life. Jada had noticed something in my work others hadn't. She was leaving Ardent to co-found a stealth mode startup, building predictive cybersecurity using neural mapping. She wanted me to be her first hire. "It's risky," she said, cupping her mug between both hands. "No salary at first, just equity. You in?" I thought of the empty driveway, my father's shrug, Caleb's smug face. "I'm in." For the next 8 months, I worked double, days at Ardent, nights and weekends with Jada in a cramped co-working space above a jazz bar. Back home, no one noticed. They were too busy bragging about Caleb's networking events and business simulations. The funny part? 2 years later, Jada and I sold our startup to a Fortune 100 firm. We kept the IP and spun off a new venture, Neuralcloak, now the most sought-after AI security firm on the West Coast. Last week, I got a LinkedIn message from Caleb. "Hey, I saw Neuralcloak is hiring product managers. Thought I'd throw my hat in?" I read it twice, then smiled and closed the tab. "He's networking with future CEOs," my stepmother gushed one evening over dinner. "Meanwhile, you're still tinkering with code and that little startup of yours." If she'd bothered to check, she might have seen that little startup had just landed its first Fortune 100 client, a global financial firm desperate for our AI threat detection system. But I said nothing. Jada had warned me early on, stay under the radar until we're unmissable. The first year was brutal. When our co-working lease fell through, I slept on a beanbag in Jada's apartment, surrounded by tangled cords and pizza boxes, debugging code until sunrise. My parents' daily updates about Caleb's business school triumphs faded into background noise. "He's interviewing at Bain and McKinsey," my father announced one night with pride in his voice. "That's a real career." I smiled politely and passed the potatoes, never mentioning that Neuralcloak, our newly branded company, had just been valued at $50 million, 0 cents after our first serious funding round. Jada and I celebrated with $7, 0 cent champagne, in an office that finally had windows and chairs. 3 years went by. Caleb graduated from Kellogg, supposedly destined for greatness. My parents threw him a celebration fit for royalty. Caterers, custom signage, a ridiculous champagne tower. I showed up late, fresh from a board meeting. Eurocloak had expanded faster than we could have imagined. Our AI systems were securing the infrastructures of banks, airports, and 2 government agencies. We had offices in 3 countries and a client wait list longer than I could keep up with. But I'd never told my family. "Oh, you made it," Caleb said, raising his glass. "Still doing the code thing?" I looked at him, thinking of the title plaque on my door. Alexandra Matthews, co-founder and CEO. Something like that. He grinned smugly. "Well, not everyone's cut out for real success, but hey, at least you're employed." Sort of. My phone buzzed. A message from HR. "Final shortlist for VP applicants. You'll want to see this." He opened the attachment. There it was. Caleb Donovan, MBA. Applying for a VP of Business Strategy role at Eurocloak at my company. No clue his big sister was the gatekeeper. "I've got an early meeting tomorrow," I said, smiling faintly. "Big things happening." He smirked. "Promotion to senior code monkey?" I left the party quietly, slipping into my Tesla parked down the street. Another thing they never noticed. On the drive home, I pulled up Caleb's application again. His cover letter was polished. But it wasn't exceptional. Not enough to impress the CEO. Certainly not enough to rewrite the past. The irony? My stepmother once sold my car so Caleb could chase his dreams, and now he was unknowingly applying to join mine. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, hit subscribe, because in the next part, Caleb walks into the interview room and finally sees who's really in charge. Back at my penthouse overlooking downtown Seattle, I stood in the floor-to-ceiling window, sipping Cabernet as the city lights flickered beneath me. Tomorrow would be interesting. Caleb's interview was scheduled for 9:00 a.m. sharp. In my home office, I opened his file again. Mediocre academic record at Kellogg, thin work history padded with internships, buzzwords, and a few name drops. But the cover letter, overflowing with ego. "I will revolutionize your company's strategic vision." I swirled my wine slowly. 3 years ago, they sold my Toyota so Caleb could get that degree. An investment in the family's future, my stepmother had said. Well, this was the return on that investment. A $1 billion cybersecurity empire with clients in 4 countries, founded without a dime from them. Quantum Shield now occupied the top 10 floors of Seattle's most iconic glass tower. Our logo glowed above the skyline, quiet, clean, unmistakable. I arrived early the next morning, watching the sun climb over Mount Rainier from my corner office as I reviewed the final interview plan. "He's here," Emma, my assistant, chimed through my headset. "He's early, Armani suit. Walked in like he was prepping for a magazine shoot." "Charming," I muttered. "How's he acting?" "Like he already owns the place," Emma replied. "Told reception to make sure Mr. Matthews knows he's here." I smiled at my reflection in the glass wall. Navy blazer, platinum Quantum Shield pin on my lapel, and the quiet authority that comes from turning vision into reality. "Send him to conference room A," I said. "But first, preliminary interview notes?" Emma handed me the tablet. "Let's see," he interrupted the HR director mid-sentence. "Mansplained our architecture model to both VPs, and he told one of our board advisors who built our expansion strategy that she was too legacy-minded for a modern tech space." "Sounds about right," I said, scrolling. "Has he figured out who I am yet?" "Nope. Still thinks A. Matthews is male. Refer to you as he in every interview." "Perfect." I tucked the tablet under my arm and walked toward the conference room, heels silent on the polished floors. Caleb stood when I entered. That polished MBA smile flickered as his eyes met mine. Recognition hit like a slap. "Alex." "That's Miss Matthews, actually," I said, taking the head seat. "Or CEO Matthews if you're feeling formal." He dropped back into the chair, all the color draining from his face. This is your company? Quantum Shield?" "Yes," I said calmly, placing the file on the table. "That coding thing you mocked? This is what it built." He glanced at the walls. Mahogany paneling, glass awards, a sleek framed certificate from Forbes Tech 100. He looked like someone who'd wandered into the wrong universe. "I didn't know," he stammered. You didn't ask, I said simply. Outside, the city moved without pause. But in that conference room, time seemed to hold its breath. I gestured toward the panoramic view of Seattle sprawled beneath our office windows. Rain clouds drifted lazily past the skyline, brushing the tips of buildings like whispers. Though I'm surprised you didn't recognize it, I said, calmly. Quantum Shield's been in every major business journal this year. You claim to understand the corporate world so well. But you're just a programmer, Caleb stammered, his confidence cracking. A programmer who built a billion-dollar company while you were learning PowerPoint and buzzwords at Kellogg. I flipped open his resume. Let's talk about this, shall we? His posture shifted. That MBA polish faded fast as I dissected his experience line by line. Internships funded by family connections, leadership roles in student orgs with no real deliverables. Every bullet point suddenly felt weightless in the gravity of what I'd built. Your grades were average, I noted, but I'm sure that car money helped with tuition. He flinched. Alex, listen about the car. Miss Matthews, I corrected, not looking up. And I'm not here for apologies. I set the tablet down. I'm here to understand why you believe you're qualified for an executive position at my company. I have an MBA from Kellogg, he said, sitting straighter. Yes. You mentioned that 6 times in your cover letter, I said coolly. What else? He blinked. No groundbreaking projects, no real management success, just borrowed confidence and a brand-name degree. I closed the folder. Tell me, Caleb, how's that MBA working out so far? He adjusted his tie, fumbling for composure. Look, we're family. That has to count for something. I smiled, not cruelly, just clearly. Was I family when you took my car? When you dismissed my work as nerdy computer stuff? When you and your mother treated me like an underachiever who should be grateful for leftovers? That was years ago, he muttered. People change. Yes, I said, reaching for the intercom. They do. Emma, please escort Mr. Matthews out and mark his application as rejected, not qualified. Wait, he said, jumping to his feet. Mom and Dad will be crushed. They've been telling everyone I was about to land a role here. I paused, thinking about the years of dinners, parties, and holidays where Caleb's achievements were celebrated like coronations, while mine were met with polite silence. They'll survive, I said evenly, though you might want to update them on who's really successful in this family. Security arrived at the door. Caleb's face twisted, first disbelief, then bitterness. You're doing this out of spite, he accused. Revenge. No, Caleb, I said as I turned back to my desk. I'm doing this because you're not qualified. Your MBA doesn't entitle you to success. Hard work does. Vision does. Respect does. You've shown none. He stood frozen a moment longer. Then one of the guards gently motioned toward the hallway. Oh, I added without looking up. The bus stop is 2 blocks east. Consider the walk good exercise. As the door clicked shut behind him, Emma entered with a fresh binder. Board update, investor notes, and 3 partnership proposals, she said cheerfully. I took a deep breath and nodded, clearing my desk. Perfect timing, let's get to work. Your mother's called 6 times this morning, Emma said, setting a steaming coffee beside my screen. Send them an email, I replied, tapping a key. Use official letterhead. Emma raised an eyebrow. Want me to add that the CEO sends her personal regrets? I smirked. No, just say this. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Matthews, thank you for your son's interest in Quantum Shield. Unfortunately, the position has been filled. I paused. By someone with actual experience, someone who didn't need a car sold to fund their future. Emma grinned. Savage, but elegant. That evening, I eased my Tesla into the private garage beneath my downtown building, the same one I used to dream about when I was scraping together bus fare. My phone buzzed with furious energy. Missed calls. Voicemails. A dozen family texts. My mother's panic practically screamed through the screen. Why didn't you tell us? We would have supported you. My father's message dripped with forced concern. Family should help each other succeed, Lex. And Caleb, just one line. You've ruined everything. I stared at the dashboard. Thought about the cold driveway years ago, where my Corolla disappeared in the hands of a stranger. I tapped out a reply. No, Caleb. I built everything. Without your MBA, without their support, and without that car. The next morning, headlines broke across the Seattle business world. Quantum Shield acquires Vantage Edge, restructures hiring protocols. Vantage Edge was a boutique consultancy firm specializing in placing MBA grads into high-level corporate roles. My first executive decision post-acquisition? A full policy shift, from credential-first to experience-first hiring. No more degrees as default gatekeepers, no more PowerPoint princes. 2 weeks later, Caleb's name popped up again. An application for a junior analyst position. I didn't even need to review it. Emma handed me the standard rejection form. But at the bottom I added one line in my own handwriting. Perhaps try learning to code. I hear it's more valuable than PowerPoint these days. Because here's the truth. Success isn't always about proving others wrong. Sometimes it's about building something so unshakably magnificent that other people's doubts dissolve into irrelevance. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's about watching the golden child with the golden resume realize that the girl he mocked for playing with computers built an empire he couldn't even get a foot into. A month later, word spread through the family grapevine. Caleb had found a job at a struggling tech startup in Tacoma as a trainee in coding. Apparently, life has a sense of humor. I had Emma overnight him a small package, a brand new Orca transit pass and a sticky note. Congratulations. After all, family should help families succeed. I never heard back, but I didn't need to. The empty space where my old car used to sit, it had been filled a long time ago. By resolve, by drive, by everything no one had ever given me. Success didn't come from parents who picked favorites or brothers who coasted on connections. It came from believing in yourself when no one else does. And maybe, just maybe, from being the programmer who proved that passion beats pedigree. If you've made it this far, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, dismissal, and quiet persistence. And if any part of my story reminds you of your own, if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told you weren't enough, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you've overcome, what you're still fighting for, or who once told you that you'd never make it. Because stories like ours deserve to be seen. I didn't build Quantum Shield to get revenge. I built it to prove something. To myself. That my worth didn't depend on a diploma, a parent's approval, or a brother's permission. I built it from late nights, quiet resilience, and the belief that skill, vision, and grit are more powerful than a resume soaked in privilege. So if you're watching this and you're still on that path, if you're starting small, struggling quietly, building something no one else can see yet, don't stop. The world might not notice now, but that doesn't mean it never will. Hit subscribe if you believe success should be earned, not inherited. Drop a roll in the comments if you've ever had to stand alone just to prove you belonged in the room. And here's my advice. Don't waste your energy proving others wrong. Prove yourself right. Chase what makes you light up. Build what keeps you awake at night. And one day when the doubters come knocking, you won't need to say a word. Because the results will speak for you. Alexandra Matthews, CEO, code writer, Carless, no more.